My name is Viktor. I work for Upbound. I'm dedicated to crossplane. I do random things and sometimes something useful comes out of it. Okay, so internal developer platform is something that all the companies were doing for 50 years now already, but now we have a name. It wasn't called internal developer platform until recently, because let's face it, every major medium to big size company had some form of tooling or effort that would help developers do stuff, whatever the stuff is, right? What is new in that aspect is the name, right? We didn't call it internal developer platform until maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that. And there is also, apart from that, what's truly new is that all the pieces of the puzzle are finally aligned, right? So you could have been doing this or that, whatever you were doing in the past, to simplify and help people do stuff. But now we have those pieces, and those pieces are mostly focused on around being able to develop smaller applications, microservices, call it whatever you want, having universal API, which is Kubernetes, which helps greatly both on the front end and the back end side, and the extensibility is the key, right? Because in the past, if you would like to have some kind of developer platform, you would need to deal with probably 57 different APIs that are completely unrelated to each other and so on and so forth. Now with Kubernetes, we have one API, extensible, everything is relatively uniform, and people can finally plug their services into it. So what is policy as code depends on whom you ask. For some companies, and unfortunately significant percentage of companies, policy as code is a way how somebody can act as a policeman. I will prevent you from doing things that you shouldn't be doing, because it's so much easier for me to prevent you from doing things than help you do things, right? It's so much easier to be a policeman than somebody who helps somebody. Now, for a smaller percentage of companies, those that do, from my perspective, things right, policy as code is a way to help people, right? If I do something I shouldn't, you can use policy as code as a way to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't have such big cluster, right? Maybe it's better if you don't do this, but do that, right? So it's a way, in both cases, it's a way to prevent people from doing silly things, but the motivation differs, right? Am I going to catch you in doing something you shouldn't, or am I going to help you with doing things in a better way? But in both cases, it's about detecting misconfigurations, let's say. IDPs help people streamline things, but enabling them to do tasks that are outside of their core competence. Because we already gave up as industry on the idea that everybody needs to know everything, like what in the past we called full stack developers, right? And now some companies extended that into, here's a credit card, go and do stuff, right? And nobody can do things, everything, simply because it's impossible to know everything. And that's where developer platforms jump in. They enable experts on one hand, and everybody's an expert in something, to plug in their experience into a platform and convert it into a service, so that somebody else who is doing something else but still needs to go outside of their comfort zone is capable of doing that in a self-service manner. It is allowing people to be self-sufficient without spending 75,000 years learning everything there is to learn about everything. Policy as code helps with security by helping us avoid things from happening instead of being reactive and scratch our heads later on, hey, why did this happen, right? And that's a paradigm shift that we had to do as industry, because for a long time, significant number of security experts were all about detecting when something that shouldn't have happened, instead of helping people avoid from doing bad things, right? And when I say bad things, I don't mean I'm an evil person, I want to do damage. I'm more referring to, hey, how can you avoid doing this by me guiding you? And the easiest way to guide somebody is through code, and policy as code is code, as the name says. So it's really about guiding people how to avoid doing, enabling security breaches. For a while now, we had solutions in Kubernetes that allow us to define policies. What changed now is that the mechanism to define policies is now baked into core Kubernetes, which poses certain problems for vendors of policy as code type of solutions, because now we have it, it's part of Kubernetes, you don't need anything extra. So on one hand, it's a good thing because we have something that is a standard that everybody will know once it goes GA how it works and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, it forces vendors to figure out new levels of abstraction to bring additional value than simply do easy stuff. Crossplane is in a way fulfilling the promise of Kubernetes that most of the people missed, but was there from the very beginning. And the promise is that Kubernetes is not a thingy that allows you to run containers. They're just one of the many possible implementations of Kubernetes. Kubernetes truly is an extensible API that allow us to extend the API and create controllers that do something. And with Crossplane, we are trying to extend Kubernetes beyond this is just a thingy that runs containers. You want to use the tooling and the ecosystem and everything to manage AWS resources, Azure resources, Google Cloud resources, GitHub repositories, whatever you want, right? There are those extension points which you can install, and then on top of that you can create your own as well. So what I like the most is the ability to extend Kubernetes beyond the initial first step that we did 10 years ago.